Hello and welcome to your award-winning The Reasons I'm Broke podcast, bringing you the reasons we're broke every single week through news and headlines ranging from comics, movies, TV, video games, and more. I'm Daniel, and for sector number 531, we have Macio as your co-host this week. Welcome back, Macio.
Well, what's up, man? What up, bro cats? What's good?
We've got a lot of gaming news, so very happy you're on this week. But first, if this is your very first episode of the show, the way we format it is we go through this week's news, and then we end it with the Brokehead block, which is what Mace and I have been watching, playing, reading since you last heard us, the stuff that's made us broke. So let's jump right in and explore sector number 531. So last week, Japanese VTubers, they were streaming Splatoon 3, and they played a dangerous game with Nintendo. They green screened adult content onto their opponent's ink. So the goal was to ensure that they cover up the adult content with enough of their own team's ink.
Okay.
Essentially making each game of Splatoon 3 a fight to try to make sure you don't get banned on YouTube, on Twitch, everywhere they were streaming. And Nintendo, this got big enough to where Nintendo had to put out a message. I don't know why they did. They could have ignored it because it doesn't really involve them. But they did put out a message warned its players that it has the right to remove any videos that, quote, significantly damage the value of the game, end quote. So they were saying that even if they won a match and they covered up all the nipples, covered up the pussy, the dicks with their own team's ink, even if like everything was fine and safe for work, that Nintendo would still be like, that's not funny, and can still remove these videos from YouTube, Twitch, from online as copyright content. You know, they have the right to do that, and they're pretty strict about it. But I don't know if you saw some of these videos, and they were just basically playing a dangerous game, man, getting their whole channels banned.
This seems like a dumb idea. Like, it's a funny idea, and it's a funny thought, but it's a dumb idea, not only by getting your shit kicked in by Nintendo, you're also basically attempting to get your shit kicked in by Twitch and YouTube. Like, you could probably get away with it on YouTube. You just take the video down. Twitch, if you're live streaming and you get caught during it or even after it, that's just a suspension probably, because it seems like they don't give too much of a shit about sexual related content. Like, literally someone got caught fucking on stream.
Right.
And got like a 2 or 3 day ban. So you might get like 2-3 days, maybe a week. But the point of it is that Nintendo is super strict on their copyright. Fuck removing your video. They might just say outright, you can't stream this. You can't stream any Nintendo game from here on out, or you can't upload any Nintendo content from here on out. And then what are you going to do? You can't bitch and moan and say, oh man, Nintendo. Like, yeah, is it a shitty, or not even a shitty, is it like a really petty thing to do? Yes, because no gaming developer or publisher would do something like this. They would at most tell people, hey, don't do it, but they won't go out all the way to the, hey, you can't fucking stream or make content around our games, period. Like, they take cheating serious. So if you uploaded a way to, like, basically make yourself invincible on Splatoon 3, like, they're taking that shit down, and they're probably suing you for like modding the game. But this type of shit, like that, and that would be any game publisher, period. If you showed a way to basically make it to cheat on an online game, they're taking you to court, they're cease and desisting you to the fucking back to fucking the gulag. But with these type of shit like this, with playing with videos, Nintendo just straight up, hey man, you can't do anything with our content. And they're the type of niggas that will sue you. They will take you to court and say, hey, you owe us money for streaming if they take you down.
It seems like a lot of obviously they knew the risks, right, going into this thing, and some of them probably figure, well, my channel called John Streams 313, I'll just change it to, instead of JOHN, I'll make a new channel, JON Streams 313. I'm sure some of those people are going to try that kind of stuff.
That shit doesn't work on Twitch, though. If you're trying to make money, it doesn't work on Twitch because you have to use your real name so you can get paid.
Oh, and that's tied into your social, right?
Yeah. So if you're trying to do it on Twitch, like, you're just gonna they're going to ban your new account for ban avoidance. You can't get around it. It's a good way on Twitch. I think it's a good way to get publicity because, you're not going to get all the way outright banned. You're just going to get a suspension. So you come back, maybe you do another stream, and then a whole bunch of people like, oh, look at the guy that got banned. Let me go watch his stream.
Right.
But the problem is in that meantime, while you're suspended, Nintendo sends you the cease and desist and say you can't fuck with any content that's published by Nintendo.
And another thing that they've also been warning players about is not just putting green screening inappropriate content onto their games. They've been saying don't do it for any content. Like some people have been putting their logos on over the green screen, the green paint. They've been putting irrelevant stuff on there, things like that. And Nintendo doesn't even like that stuff. They see it as manipulation of the content on there, even though they're not directly manipulating the actual content of the game. It's more video software, kind of like you're putting your own logos on top of stuff. So it's kind of a fine line, but at the end of the day, Nintendo is more strict than the other companies when it comes to that stuff. And I think they have it in somewhere where they have the rights to take down your videos for any reason. They don't have to allow your stuff to be up there, as copyright holders, basically.
Exactly. Like it doesn't matter that you're not directly editing the files of the game, or it's their content. You have to have their permission to stream their game. Now, pretty much no publisher actually takes it that far. Even Nintendo doesn't take it that far, but they do say, hey, we will stop you from streaming our game if you do something we don't like. And they don't even list what are the things we don't like. Mm-hmm. So you could, if you're a big enough YouTuber and then you say, oh, I'm going to stream a hack, like a Pokemon hack. If you have enough viewers, they're going to say, hey, we don't want you streaming that or making a video about that because you're bringing light to it. If it's a smaller person, they might not care, but a huge YouTuber or a huge Twitch streamer, they might say, hey, we don't want you bringing publicity to this, so just don't stream it. Here's the cease and desist. And the thing with this one is so odd. It's the whole green screen aspect. So you have more video editing skills than I do. You've actually edited videos. Would this be one of those things where they actually just take out the color green in the game? Like, does it matter the color? Because if it's just, they can do this on green or blue, they could just take those colors out the game and make it so that like you won't be able to use that type of editing software.
Yeah, that's what they would have to do. They would have to change it to a shade of green or blue that doesn't trigger or isn't recognized by the software. But there's ways around that. You can obviously then trigger the colors of the video to where it turns it back into green, even though everything else is messed up as far as colors. True. You can still change it to green if you wanted to. So I don't think it's for them. It's worth the effort to do all of that. And I don't think that this is going to be an ongoing thing either, but it is. I did watch some clips and I'm immature enough to find it hilarious. You see them like, oh no. And they're like struggling to cover it all up with paint and shit. So it's hilarious and it was funny and it's enough to where Nintendo had to be like, oh shit, now we got to say something.
Yeah. It's either going to be one of those things where like they either just outright ban the perpetrators, or maybe they add a texture to the paint that makes it makes the images scratchy, so it makes you not want to do it. They're gonna try something with the game. I'm sure they got the devs working fucking crazy overtime. It's Japan, so they got them in the sweatshop trying to figure out ways to get around this without having to go through and ban every single person from streaming.
That's true. I can see that definitely being an update, or even for Splatoon 4, all of a sudden it's a different kind of ink. We're going to find out, and we will cover it here on the show. This one made its way over to Discord, and we talked a little bit about it on there, but let's get a bigger discussion for it because it has been pretty controversial with gamers, as Gotham Knights executive producer Flor Flawa Marty shared on the game's Discord that the console version of Gotham Knights will run at a set 30 frames per second. And they said, quote, due to the types of features we have in our game, like providing a fully untethered co-op experience and our highly detailed open world, it's not as straightforward as lowering the resolution and getting a higher FPS. For this reason, our game does not have a performance/quality toggle option and will run at 30 FPS on consoles, end quote. So 30 frames per second is still pretty common. Many are often willing to sacrifice resolution for the higher FPS, especially if they're playing something multiplayer, something with lots of action like Call of Duty, Battlefield, Halo. But the PC version of Gotham Knights, so if you have a Microsoft computer or a Microsoft PC, you can launch Gotham Knights at a full 60 frames per second, and it's $10 cheaper. So if it's that important for you, get it on PC. It may be on PC Game Pass. I don't know, maybe in the future, but if it's that important, you can have it on there. Currently, it is set to release on October 21st for Xbox Series X and Xbox Series S, PC, and other systems. So this was a deal breaker for a lot of gamers, Maceo. Why do you think that something like this, which is not a shooter, ended up being a pretty big deal?
It's almost a misnomer. Pretty much, I would say a majority of games, at least 75% of games that's been releasing on the new consoles only, have been 60 FPS. And I know some people are like, but it's not a shooter, doesn't need to be 60 FPS. If it's an action game, yes. I personally I have an Xbox Series X, and I haven't played pretty much any games in 30 FPS except for a game called The Medium that released at the very beginning of the Series X life cycle. And that game isn't an action game. It's like a psychological horror. So it's very slow paced. It doesn't really have any quick time events or any type of action where you need to time button presses and things of that nature. You're talking about Gotham Knights, which is supposed to be like an action RPG. You kind of would want that to be at 60 FPS. It's not crazy that it's kind of crazy that it's not. The reasoning behind it doesn't really make sense because they say that, like the dev said, a fully untethered co-op experience. If you're playing on PC and you're playing with your friend, there's literally zero guarantee that he's playing at 60 FPS, 120, 90, 30. It's a PC. It's never, when you're playing on PC, pretty much no one plays anything with VSync on, which locks a frame rate. So the frame rate fluctuates at all times when you're playing on PC versus when you're playing on console, where they try to keep it at 30 FPS and you might get or 60 FPS and you might get a drop here or there. So this little notion makes no sense. It could have been where there's a toggle. It could have been where it goes higher. So like right now with these new consoles, there's been games where they actually uncap the frame rate. So it could be higher than 30 FPS. And then they allow people to have FreeSync or any of those type of things. FreeSync, which would be VRR, variable refresh, so that your screen kind of matches the FPS of the game so that you don't get screen tearing and you don't feel the drops when it does drop. So you have those type of different technologies that you could use on console that they just didn't do. And so I would say it's more of a dev thing. And it's especially odd because they cut the previous gen consoles out of the equation. So it was pretty much, they had to go bare metal to the Series X, the PS5, the Series S, and the PC. The game, and they took shortcuts on this game in general. Most games that come out right now that are multiplayer, they're cross compatible. So you could play with your PC friend on your Xbox, your PS5 friend on your PC, etc. And that's not even a thing on this. So you have to be playing with somebody that owns the same console as you. And now you're stuck at a lower FPS. You don't have any options whatsoever, which is odd. Again, with the Series X, the Series S, and the PS5, pretty much every game says there's a quality mode, there's a performance mode. You get the performance mode, you get 60 FPS. The quality mode, it ramps up the resolution and lowers the FPS. Almost every game has those. It's literally just the excuse of the devs just either didn't have time or they didn't care. That's pretty much it.
And I know people were also upset because originally it was set to come out on last gen consoles as well as current gen. And now that it's set to just current gen consoles, people are like, well, the excuse would have been, okay, it needs to be 30 FPS because we were putting it on last gen's consoles too. But now that it's fully on current gen, people kind of had that expectation of, all right, well, this is why it's on current gen. I think they even said it back then to help with the performance or something rather. And now we're getting kind of the opposite. It might as well be a last gen game, yet it's going to cost $70. So I think a lot of people especially feel like they're not getting their money's worth out of this title.
It's a spit in the face. It's $70, which is already a L. If you're on PC, you can play it at whatever resolution you want. You can play it at whatever FPS you want, and you spend less money. So that's already a L. Then on top of that, they specifically keep this under wraps. And this is one of those things where us as consumers, we need to be a little bit more perceptive, because if you look at the trailers, if you look at gameplay footage of the game, a lot of the time, pretty much almost any footage I've seen on YouTube, it was never 60 FPS. Like, it was never uploaded at 60 FPS, which is normally odd, because even if they're using the PC version as the game that you're watching, like they're using the PC version at what they're recording the footage at, normally they would record it in 60 FPS, but somehow, some way, every video I watched was always in 30 FPS. So that was already odd. And then they literally avoided talking about this up until this week. So that's where the bait and switch kind of comes from, because it's like they could have announced this months ago. They knew we weren't getting a 60 FPS option probably a month, maybe 2 months ago, and crickets, nothing. And then we get this, and it was very funny. I like this one because there was I don't know if he's a current dev or former dev from Rocksteady, pretty much just put the blame on the Xbox Series S, where he went and said the Series S is a potato. That's literally what he said on Twitter. The Series S is a potato, and it's holding back this generation. So then the PlayStation fanboys just went out of control.
Of course.
Talking shit about Microsoft, talking shit about the Series S, basically saying, oh, the Series S is keeping us back, and there's no way that we can get, real next gen games because the Series S, the devs are being hamstrung against the Series S. But it's like a lot of games that come out, some games, like for example, that Dying Light 2, that's a first person shooter. It's a co-op game. It's an open world game. And on the Series S, it was 30 FPS, while the PS5 and the Series X had 60. And they were just like, hey man, we can't get it done. We can't get 60 FPS on the Series S. Now, months down the line, they ended up doing a patch and getting 60 FPS on the Series S. But even if they never did, they just straight up said, hey man, we can't get it done, but we're not going to hamstring the new consoles because the stronger consoles, because the Series S can't do it. So they gave 60 FPS to those stronger consoles. The Gotham Knights devs could have did the same thing. They either didn't have the time or they didn't find it cost effective. I'm not going to sit here and say devs are lazy. That's a shitty brain dead take that people say. They just don't have the time, or it's not cost effective. That's it.
So there you have it. It is not. I like potatoes, for the record. So that's a compliment to me when when they talk about.
I mean, it's true, man. The Series S is very underpowered. The CPU is very strong. It's the GPU that they kind of shit the bed on. But I mean, they were making a really cheap console, and they're selling a lot of them.
And as you were saying, it's clearly not the thing holding back a game from getting a full 60 FPS. As you mentioned, there's previous examples of other games being able to run 60 on the PlayStation 5 and not on the Xbox. So they're able to do it, as you said. So that is definitely not an argument, and it is not on Microsoft. It is on the developers for sure. What would you say to this, which was brought up on Discord, where some gamers are like, I can't even tell the difference anyway between 30 FPS and 60. And the other side being like, well, then you're not a true gamer because you should be able to notice what 60 feels like.
I wouldn't say you're not a true gamer, but you probably don't have very good perception. Like I'm one of those people that can tell the difference between 120 and 60.
Mhm.
Some people can't tell the difference there, but 30 and 60 is like, it's night and fucking day, man. Like, I don't understand how you can tell. Like, you can go on Google and just say that, just type in 30 FPS versus 60, and it'll put two images side by side. One's running at 30 and one's running at 60. I don't see how you could sit there and watch that and say, man, I can't tell the difference unless your eyes are just that fucked up. And that's fine. You know, not everybody, not everybody is able, you know, some people can walk, some people can't. So if you can't see it, I'm not going to say you're not a real gamer, but it's clearly there. The screen is refreshing double the speed. So even if you say you can't see the difference, you can definitely feel the difference, because the latency of when you press buttons, actions happen faster when the game is at 60 FPS.
Right. And I'll say the names because it's on Discord anyway. And in Scott's defense, he doesn't play competitive multiplayers. He's admitted it himself. He's not good at competitive games. He's not good at competitive gaming. He more or less plays for completion, for the fun of it. So he puts games on easy mode so he's able to beat them sometimes. Whereas the opposite, someone like Bobby does play first person shooters. So obviously one's going to have a lot more experience with having like a Twitch shooter. And I've definitely I've had my many hours of Call of Duty in the past. So I can see the smoothness of a gun, a fire, all that stuff. I totally get it. So if it's that important, but I will say at the same time, for something like Gotham Knight, I don't know if I would mind so much because it's not a competitive game as far as that. And I know you were saying that action games should run at 60 FPS, and I'm sure it would look even better. But at the end of the day, Gotham Knights, to me, does not look good. I think it's done by WB Montreal. They don't have the greatest record when it comes to Batman games. I'm more for the Rocksteady game of the Suicide Squad. That game, I think, is going to be worth $70. They have my trust. The Arkham Knight games, the Arkham games are fantastic. And now they're doing a Suicide Squad game, which so far looks fantastic. And I think they've delayed it once or twice already, which is fine with me. It's going to make its money. It's going to do fine. Personally, hold off on Gotham Knights. If you really want it, it's going to be on discount. I'm sure this holiday season it's going to be on discount. Get it then, but otherwise save it, put it towards Rocksteady's The Suicide Squad.
Gotham Knights was one of those games where I was actually I was very hyped for it, and then the more they showed the game, the more I didn't want to play it. And once it got to the point where it was about a month ago and they did a full deep dive, and I saw the gameplay, and it was pretty much nothing like the Arkham Knight games. It doesn't have that Arkham style combat, which is fine, but I didn't like the combat I saw. And I don't know if you've seen this, or if you have the time to go back and watch this later. They had a gameplay, I think it was through GameSpot, and they had a Batgirl fighting with, I want to say it might have been Harley Quinn, singing Livin' La Vida Loca while she was fighting a whole bunch of fucking like bad guys in a prison. And that the cover of, I don't know if it was supposed to be funny, like she was singing it bad. It sounded fucking terrible. It was like a punk rock cover of Livin' La Vida Loca. It was terrible. The gameplay didn't look good. The graphics didn't look good. Like everything I was watching, I was like, damn, I don't want this. I don't want to play this game at all, man. Like, damn, like I was kind of sad because I'm like, damn, I was looking forward to it. I wasn't looking forward to spending $70 on it. And now that, you know, Game Pass is starting to ramp up, we got a lot of new titles coming out. Scoring came out this week. You got Plague's Tale, the Plague's Tale sequel coming out next week. I'm done. I don't give a fuck about this game. When it comes out, it could come out. I don't care. Looking forward to Suicide Squad next year. It's supposed to come out 2023. So we'll look forward to that when it comes to DC. Maybe NetherRealm will come out and announce a new DC fighting game, Injustice 3 or something. But this one is pretty much this is going to flop, unfortunately.
It will. And for anyone that's thinking they need to get Gotham Knights for story or for the lore of the Arkham games, this does not at all connect to the Arkham games. Even though it begins with the death of Batman, which is how Arkham Knight ended, this is a completely different world. This is a different continuity that just happens to be, maybe at one point it was the sequel to it, but it is not connected at all to the Arkham games. And as the story beats have already leaked online, and have shown that characters that may not have made it in the Arkham games are alive in this one. It's clear as day that this is not at all in the Arkham universe. So don't feel like you need to play this just to get the next part of the story before you play Suicide Squad. This is not at all connected. We did get more out of Microsoft as Minecraft is adding a brand new DLC world that lets you play as Batman and roam around Gotham City to stop DC Batman villains. So Batman is joined by sidekicks like Robin, and you'll be able to go up against Joker, Mr. Freeze, Poison Ivy, Harley Quinn, and even solve puzzles from the Riddler. So this DLC came out this week, and you're even able to drive the Batmobile. So Minecraft continues to put in, much like Fortnite, although I think Minecraft is better, they're continuing to put in franchises into the world. I think the last biggest release, in my opinion, was Sonic the Hedgehog, and now you get the Batman universe.
I like all of this, and this is cool when they add these kinds of DLCs. But I'm gonna stick up for the Minecrafters. They don't get a lot of voice out on this. What the fuck is Mojang doing, man? These DLCs are cool, but when it comes to the actual game getting like real heavy content updates, it's pretty much been dry. Hasn't been any type of update when it comes to the new consoles. They haven't done anything with updating Minecraft to the new Series X or to the PS5, making the game run better, higher FPS, higher graphic fidelity, or even putting it on par with the PC games, or making it so that you could play in PC realms on your new consoles, since they're closer to the PC than they ever been. And we're getting these type of paid DLCs. And it's kind of like, where are they trying to prioritize? Because right now, basically, these new consoles are running Minecraft from 10 years ago, pretty much. There's not been any substantial update to make the game run better. And they've been adding these DLCs, and that's cool. But when it comes to the console, like, they're not getting shit. And then when it comes to the overall game, whether you're playing on console or PC, there's a lot of quality of life that needs to be put into these games. So fuck that, man. Like, Mojang, what the fuck is up?
Hey man,
Minecrafters,
if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
the Minecrafters need to be posting about this at all the time. Like, it's kind of crazy. And the crazy thing is, they still make $1 zillion off of this shit. Like, this is probably Microsoft's best purchase in the past like 15 years. Like, even better than Activision. This shit just prints money. Every time you think Minecraft might fall off, you look at the end of the year, and right under fucking Grand Theft Auto and like whatever the newest Madden and NBA 2K is, it's the best selling fucking game every year for the past like 10 years. And it doesn't stop. And they just keep making more money, even though they're putting the very bare minimum into the game.
It sounds like their profit margins then are getting pretty wide then. I approve of this, Macio. I don't know what the problem is.
And it's funny because while they do this, like, they add different games. Like, there's a new Minecraft Legends. They did what they did with Minecraft Dungeons, which I enjoyed Minecraft Dungeons a lot, but they pretty much ran that game down. There hasn't really been any real new DLC. They just switched over to the Battle Pass method. So I'm sure that's making them money. They just find a good way to monetize the fuck out of Minecraft, but they don't give you anything substantial to back it up. And honestly, I feel like the only thing that's saving them is that Fortnite Creative hasn't like caught as much fire as Minecraft has. And you got the other games on the outside of those, stuff like Valheim and Ark, that haven't really just made that switch where the younger crowd is on those. The younger crowd is still sticking on Minecraft. And even as they get older, it feels like since they put so much time into Minecraft, they just stick with it instead of branching out into those other games. So it's like, if you started in Fortnite as a young kid, you're sticking with Fortnite Creative. If you started with Minecraft as a kid, then you're sticking with Minecraft as you get older, and you just hop back in when they add stuff like this. So I guess if from a money standpoint, it works.
Yeah, I'm excited to see what other franchises they do. I wouldn't be shocked if they next did maybe a Superman world or something else. I'm sure they're going to look at how Batman does first, and that's pretty much the best thing you can pick out of DC to put in here. And when it does well, that's when they'll probably expand and do another contract to get more worlds into Minecraft. So pretty exciting times, especially if you have been buying up the DLC. I think it's going to be about $10, if not less. They're comparing it to the Sonic the Hedgehog DLC, so I wouldn't expect it to be too expensive compared to the other releases. On the Nintendo side of things, this is another controversial story, and it's got fans pretty split on Bayonetta, as the main Bayonetta voice actor, Helena Taylor, is asking fans to boycott the upcoming Bayonetta 3. So this was in a series of videos shared on her socials. Taylor said she was offered $4,000 to return to the role of Bayonetta, an offer she described as, quote, an insult, end quote. It was a pretty long series of videos. She went into some details on how undervalued she felt because of that. Platinum Games' Hideki Kamiya did respond on Twitter with, quote, sad and deplorable about the attitude of untruth. That's all I can tell now. By the way, beware of my rules. My block button is bigger than ever. End quote. She has since been replaced with veteran voice actor Jennifer Hale from the Mass Effect trilogy. Taylor did wish Hale the best of luck, but also followed up with the following, quote, she has no right to say she is the voice of Bayonetta. I created that voice. She has no right to sign merchandise as Bayonetta, any more than I have the right to sign as Ava Green, even though I was her parent on the video game The Golden Compass. That betrayal is hers and hers alone. They'll probably try and do a spin-off with Jean. Don't buy that either, end quote. So that last part, I was like, I don't know if I agree with that. You know, she did, at the same time, she voiced Bayonetta 3, so she worked on it. She can sign all the merchandise she wants. I understand she probably shouldn't sign Bayonetta 1 and 2 merch because she didn't work on those games. But how do you feel about this and the call to boycott this third game? And some fans are following her along with it.
They're not, man. They're fucking not, dude. I was reading this shit, man. The people that's boycotting this shit, they were never buying it, bro. Like, if you were waiting for Bayonetta, you're buying it. I seen the fucking copium on Nintendo, the Nintendo fans. They don't give a fuck about this lady, man. They don't. They just want a new Nintendo game. They've been waiting for the new Bayonetta. They do not care, bro. They don't. I feel sorry for them. This is this basically like the Tara Strong situation with like in DC when it comes to Harley Quinn? Like it's kind of like the same thing, right?
Right, yeah, because Arlene Sorkin, who's the original voice of Harley, was not asked to return for Arkham City and Arkham Knight. She only did the first Arkham game, and people were like, oh, she retired from the role. And Arlene came out and she's like, no, I didn't retire. They never called me back for the sequel. And that's when people like me were pissed off because I can tell the difference between the two voices. And it's like Tara's is terrible. Her Harley Quinn is awful. It sounds like a shriek. And she's also the one.
I'm a fan of.
Yeah, and she puts up, I don't know if she does it anymore because I don't follow her, but Tara put up images of Batman the Animated Series Harley Quinn saying things like, good morning, Puddin'. And it's like, no, you didn't voice that Harley. Don't put that shit up. So I can sort of see some of that in here. And I don't know if you saw the comparisons between the two voices. Jennifer Hale is an amazing actor, but Taylor's is a lot more dynamic when it comes to Bayonetta. You can see comparison videos already from the trailers of Bayonetta 3, and Jennifer Hale plays it a lot more flat than what we're used to in Bayonetta. But you're right, I don't think the fans are going to really notice the difference.
Yeah, and the crazy shit is, you know for a fact, 1,000%, Jennifer Hale did not get paid $4,000. Like that's what it really is. It's like, if they really only offered her $4,000 for this shit, like pretty much and she said no. Jennifer Hale isn't doing that shit for $4,000. She probably her publicist, her PR, her manager, her agent, they look at that and they're like, you missed a zero or something, like 4,000. Like that's a typo, right? Like they're not even putting 4,000 on the fucking sheet if they're trying to get Jennifer Hale. So that's hilarious. But damn, that's a crazy low ball. Platinum Games have been having problems. They already have a really bad flop this generation with that Babylon Fall game where that shit was like dead in the water. It was supposed to be a game as a service, one of those online games that last forever. And like within the first week, they only had like 10 players active on the
Wow.
game. Like it fucking flopped like crazy. So they probably were hurting for money. They might have had a certain type of budget for voice acting, and they figured, the load of the voice acting budget was going to be spent on this lady. Let's lowball her, and if we can't lowball her enough, like we'll just go get one of those people that are in every single game, like Jennifer Hale is. And that's the shit I hate about voice acting. If you look at the video game space, it's the same motherfuckers. It's Nolan North, it's Jennifer Hale, it's fucking God damn, I can't remember buddy's name. Barker, Troy Baker, like the same people over and over and over. Yeah, man, but that's understandable. But the rest of these motherfuckers, man, they're not that dope. They're really not that good, and they get every fucking role. And it's like every game you play, you hear the same fucking people. And with some of these guys, they don't even change their voice. It's the same voice. So it's like you get the same people over and over and over. And when we get new people like Helena Taylor, they get axed out because as soon as it's like time to pay them, like they put in the work, they put in the hours, people love their voice. And then when it's time for them to get paid, oh man, we're just going to let's go get the person that always gets the huge check, because fuck these guys. Like it sucks, man. Like this kind of thing, almost the same thing happened with Borderlands 3 with Claptrap. And even some of the older voices for Borderlands 1 and Borderlands 2, they just literally went out and got new people once those old people came back and said, hey, we're not getting paid like we should. What happened with Borderlands was those voices from Borderlands 1, those were devs. They weren't voice actors. They were just devs. And they were just paying them as devs. They didn't give them the voice acting money and the dev money. They just said, hey, man, you're getting paid to be a developer on the game. So that's your paycheck.
They pulled a Stan Lee.
And they were like, wait a minute, this game, like people go to these conventions to get our names signed on their shit because we are the voice of these characters. And they're like, yeah, nah, we'll just go give it to somebody that's actually in the voice actors guild. Fuck you. Like, you want to get paid? No, you get paid to work on the game. Keep working on the game. We'll just get them the new voice. And it's like, that's fucked up, man. Like, just because they want to get paid what they should get paid, how about you just say, hey, don't be a dev? How about you don't be a dev and we'll just pay you the voice acting credit and you can, be a dev somewhere else. We'll work on a different video game and we'll just take you in for the voice acting part. No, they just say, fuck you. You can't get 2 checks. So this one right here is like even worse because she voiced the first game and it did okay. That first Bayonetta, it didn't sell gangbusters. But then when Nintendo picked it up, that second one sold way better than the fucking first one. And when it's time for her to actually reap the benefits of that big, huge sale, they just said, fuck you. We'll just go get the person that's on everything.
And that's a theme with not just gaming voice actors, but as I've learned with Scott, even though he doesn't like the English subs for a lot of these anime, but for anime voice actors, they get paid like hundreds of dollars, not thousands. They get paid hundreds of dollars to voice act in anime dubs. And a lot of these companies are cutting corners because they're like, hey, we'll just get the next guy in line that wants to be heard in an anime and that won't mind getting paid a couple $100s to come on in. Most people watch it subbed anyway. So that's the kind of thing that is a prevalent problem and probably will end up showing up with some kind of union. I don't know. Something has to happen to get these people paid a lot better, higher wages. Something has to change.
And the thing is that Helena Taylor is in the voice acting union. That's a hilarious part. She's in the same union as Jennifer Hale. That's the wild part about it. And I don't know if you've seen this new development. There was actually an article about a week or maybe 2 weeks ago where they showed that like there's AI right now that can literally voice act. Like there's like 2 or 3 companies that made AI that basically they get you the feeling of what you want in the game. And then devs use that as the way to coach people to do the voice acting. But low key, they could easily just go ahead and pay these companies. If you're like a lower tier dev or indie dev, but you want voice acting in your game, you pay the AI company, they give you that, what you want there, and then you put that in the game versus even paying somebody. So you got to compete with the AI. You got to compete with the people that are veterans in the game that they get every job regardless anyway. They're raking in bread. And then you as a startup person, if you were thinking about getting into the voice acting game, you basically have to take these peanuts until you get enough work to where they can give you the big payday.
Even programs like I use one of the programs called Descript to edit this podcast. And there's a feature in there called Overdub. You put in as much voicing as you can, and it just picks it up from all the editing that I do, and it can recreate my voice in any sentence. I type out a sentence, and I have to agree to the terms and all that, but I've done it before. I've put it up on the show, and whatever I type out, it'll recreate my voice, and then I can change the inflection. I can make it sound exactly how I want. And that's just on this little bit of software. Imagine, like you were saying, companies that are devoted to this kind of thing. I wouldn't be surprised if years down the line, that ends up being the thing of a big company is going to come up and they're going to be providing movies, games, anime, all that stuff with purely voice acting that they can just program up, edit in, and tweak as they please. And I think that's going to be a huge part of art in the future. And there's going to be that argument of, is it art? Is it not art? And it'll be very interesting to see, and something that people will be discussing, I think, for a while.
Yeah. And you got to remember, like, even though it's not developed by Nintendo, it's published by Nintendo, and Nintendo doesn't really do voice acting in pretty much any of their games. It's all text or like gobbledygook, like that type of
Animal
like,
Crossing.
You don't pay anybody for that shit. So that's one way they keep their budgets low. So I'm sure they probably were like, dog, it's an action game. Do you really need this person like talking a lot? We like try to cut down as much lines as you possibly can to get voice acting in this game, so we don't have to pay. Like, I'm sure they hit them with a super low budget for that kind of work, and they were like, "Hey, man, that's all you get." And then once they tried to low ball Taylor, they said, "Hey," they probably went back to Nintendo like, "Hey, man, we need more money for this." And they said, "Oh yeah, cool, but just don't get that lady. Just go ahead and get get Jennifer Hale." And then you gotta remember, these are Japanese companies, and it's all about work. You gotta work, and they take that shit as an insult. Like, "Oh, you don't want to do this job for 4,000? Like, you know how much work people have to do to get 4,000 in our country? Like, fuck you." They probably felt insulted. So.
Right. And that's why I was just going to say that it doesn't make any sense that they would pay more for Jennifer Hale and not offer Taylor the money she wanted. But it sounds like it has something more to do than money. Yes. And that's
disrespecting for sure.
Like the developer were saying that maybe eventually that's all he can, that's what they said. That's all I can tell now. So they will probably tell us more in the future, and then she can respond and whatnot. But it sounds like it has something to do. Doesn't have to do with the $4,000, but it might be something else, and we will find out.
Don't hold your breath, man. They're not talking about this shit no more. They're gonna sell 2-3 million copies and keep it like that. Just wash their hands with it.
Bayonetta 3 will be out pretty much by the time this releases. So if anyone got it, let us know what you think. I haven't pre-ordered it because I'm like, I don't know when I'll play it. So, but I'm excited. Good on Bayonetta 3. Good on the developers at all in general, just because Bayonetta 1 and 2 were excellent. And it's a miracle that we even have 2 and 3, that even exists. On to some comic book news here, as the Walt Disney Company celebrates its 100th anniversary next year, and Marvel is getting in on the action with its monthly Disney 100 variant cover program. And this features Mickey Mouse, Minnie, Donald, Goofy, and all their friends recreating classic Marvel issues with Mickey'd up versions of the artwork. So I don't know if you remember back in 2009, I forgot when Marvel got bought up by Disney, but I was working at the comic shop and people were saying, I trust Disney. It's going to be fine. It's not like they're going to start putting Mickey Mouse all over Marvel. They just want to make money off of Marvel. Over 10 years later now, and we're getting Disney Mickey'd up fucking Iron Man, Captain America, Mickey all over those fucking comic books. And for the most part, as I was talking with Millennial Mike, movies that no longer can exist, like Iron Man, you couldn't make under Disney. That's why Paramount made it. All these things I think have gotten for the worse. And that's what Disney does, though, is they buy up the company like Star Wars. They milk the shit out of it, make as much money as possible. They're good at making money. at the price of the integrity of the art. And that's what they do, and people buy it up and they make money. This is another thing that I just had to include because it's fucking hilarious to me as someone who remembers those conversations from years ago.
You almost sounded like Suge Knight, when he was on stage, like, oh, if you don't want somebody dancing all up in your videos. Like, you don't want Disney all up in your shit. Like, we come over here. Like, this shit is nasty, man. Like, I like when they do certain variant covers. Like, remember the hip hop variant covers?
Yeah.
Those shits were dope. That shit was fire. Like, I love that. And there's an actual time where there's plenty of hip hop artists, including the ones that they recreated, like album art, and put those artists on the covers like that. Like, a lot of those artists mention comic books and reading comic books, and they have references to comic books or metaphors about comic books in their music. So that was dope. Like, this is terrible, man. This is terrible. Like, the only people buying shit is speculators and Disney nut huggers. Like, the actual comic book fan does not want this. They don't care about this. They're not buying it. They're not going out and buying this. This is just literally for those people that have to go to the park to get the 50th anniversary t-shirt and walk around wearing I'm a Disney mom. Like, that is that type of person that's going to be trying to buy this. It's just it's sick, man. It's sick.
And that's what also made, I was working at the shop when they came out with the 80th anniversary variant, and it was a special one. It was a 1 in 100. And this was one of the few times in which Mickey Mouse did appear on the cover of a Marvel book. You have to order 100 copies of, I think, Spider-Man or Amazing Fantasy, and it shows an 80th anniversary birthday cake with the Marvel characters and Mickey Mouse like handing it to him or whatever. And it was very sought after because it's not often that this shit was happening. Like, oh my God, Mickey Mouse is on the cover of a Marvel book. Now you're going to see him on the cover of every one of these major titles. So it completely washes out that, and I don't know why I felt like it was going to stay special, and it wasn't. It didn't.
No.
And maybe those
Absolutely
books will still retain their value. I don't know. I don't care. But I found it funny as someone on the other side that's like, I fucking knew it, of course. And the people that were saying, I trust them, are going to be buying this shit. Like you said, they're buying the 50th anniversary pins here at the parks, all of that stuff. And they're going to be buying these. It is what it is. It's just a funny thing to me. Something else that was also hilarious, but on the DC side, is Black Adam's Dwayne Johnson, who's now claiming that the old Warner Brothers leadership did not want Henry Cavill to return. I believe that because we saw that they were about to replace him with, who was it? He stars in the Apollo Creed movies. He was the villain in the first Black Panther as well. But they were about to replace him as the new Superman, and no Henry Cavill, no appearances, nothing. They cut his head off in the Shazam movie. They didn't have him in Pedo Squad. They had him like shadowed out. And he said, quote, "This is The Rock. 6 years to get that done. I'm going to say that again. 6 years we kept talking about this, and they kept saying no. Now that leadership isn't there anymore, and we usher in a new era of the DC universe," end quote. This was in an interview with Ajep Arts. So he is essentially taking credit for Henry Cavill coming back, even though he was on stage with Toby Emmerich just last year, might have been early this year, during that WB Summit, showing off the movies like Dune, holding hands with Toby Emmerich up in the sky, and Toby Emmerich doing the Black Power symbol and all of that right there next to Black Adam, right next to the Rock.
I mean, what was he supposed to do, man? That was the boss. It's not like he could have been like, oh, I'm not showing up and I'm not going to, even though you're not giving me what I want, like, he's still giving him a fucking movie and millions of dollars. You got to put his hand up with him.
I'm saying that this isn't something that The Rock should be taking credit for. I don't believe him when he says shit like, we've been fighting for years to try to get Henry Cavill. I'm like, but you were going to make that fucking movie regardless. You were going to shill for that leadership no matter what. And I think it's more, I give more credit to Zaslav, who has been saying since before the buyout, we need Superman, we need Wonder Woman, we need Batman. We need them. We needed them to have their own solo films. We need them to show up in other DC movies. I think that was his plan all along, is to, why aren't we using Henry Cavill and Gal Gadot and Ben Affleck. They should be used front and center. These are our major properties. These are our money makers, and you guys are trying to replace them with Supergirl, Batgirl. You're keeping Wonder Woman, but then also you're trying to decide on which Superman you want to have. It just doesn't make sense. Which Batman, the fucking Pattinson one that they wanted to put up, or Batgirl, Michael Keaton Batman, like it didn't make any sense. So to me, I think it is Zaslav going, we need to put these guys in these movies that people recognize, that people are asking for, because it costs us more money to be rebooting these characters as opposed to using the established property.
I think it's a little bit of both. I believe the name of The Rock's production company is like 4 Pound Entertainment or some shit like that. It's something very ominous. And I will say they kind of do move almost like a fucking gang when it comes to these movies, man. Like he gets his way. He pretty much took over fucking Fast and Furious. And it sounds like they're pushing their way and taking over the DC universe where it's, hey man, I'm The Rock. People pay to come watch these movies. I don't think they're going to do it with Black Adam.
No,
but he's using his previous wins and his previous box office numbers to basically say, look, I know what's best for this shit. You don't fucking know. Hey, Zaslav, like you have the idea of, hey, we need to put our main franchises at the forefront because that's what prints money. But at the end of the day, you haven't made money. You've actually lost Warner Brothers money overall, even though you're saving money by getting rid of these terrible projects that would lose more money. At the end of the day, you haven't had any box office wins under your belt, and I have. So you're going to listen to me. And if you don't, this Black Adam shit is going to be a one-off and you'll never see me in the DC universe again. Like, I feel like that's how he's kind of pushing through it. And so he's fighting with that. But then Zaslav is also coming back and saying, well, shit, I wanted Superman around anyway. Like, I want these properties around anyway. So shit, go ahead. Like, you put it in the movie and make it tasteful or something, put some quality behind it. And yeah, you got my blessing. And shit, might as well get Henry, because then we don't have to try to recast, because whoever we recast for Superman, we're going to have to give him a movie now.
Right.
So it seems like it was like a win-win. I don't know that The Rock was like, oh, we need Henry Cavill. I bet he was just like, we need Superman, and we actually need to see his face, not the fucking shadow of him, not the topless, the headless Superman with just the suit. We need actual Superman. And then probably Tony Emmerich was like, yeah, but like, we're not using Henry Cavill because we're not doing the Zack Snyder bullshit.
Right.
Like, no Snyderverse, no nothing. And it doesn't make sense for us to reintroduce a brand new Superman in your movie. Like, that makes absolutely zero sense. Like, they were probably like, what about like the Flash? Can we throw like the Flash in there or something? Just throw him something like, and then he was like, no, we need Superman. And they're just like, no. So I think he's telling the truth where it comes to, like, he was trying to get Superman in the movie, but is that really because of story integrity, like making the story better, or just to be like, yo, Superman's in this, like, you gotta watch it? Like, I feel like it's closer to that versus, oh man, we got this dope storyline that Superman could partake in. Please let him be in the movie.
Yeah, it ended up being, he's trying to sell tickets off of this post-credit scene that's already leaked online. It's out there. You can see it. So it's all the air's out of the balloon, in my opinion, because no one's going to see that leaked footage and go, oh, Superman's in this. I'm going to go check it out because he's a part of the third act or anything. He's not in the whole movie until that post-credit scene. And that's what they're counting on. And the weird thing is, at Comic-Con, he was like, Superman's in the movie, but it's going to depend on which Superman we see. That's what The Rock said. And that's when people booed the shit out of him. and it was weird because it's like, were they still deciding at that point which Superman they were going to put in this movie? Like, that's the weird thing. Or was he just being terrible at hyping up the fact that they had gotten Henry Cavill in there? That was the weird thing to me. That's why I thought, oh, they didn't get Henry. They're going to introduce the Black Superman that we're going to get in a future movie. And that's going to be the big debut. And it turns out it's not the case. And I don't know if we'll ever find out exactly what it is, but it does make me nervous because I don't know if you also saw that The Rock was like, I'm going to help find that Kevin Feige for the DC universe. And I'm like, fuck you, The Rock.
By him being, I'm going to help find, it's going to be like somebody that works for his 4 Pound Entertainment or whatever. Like, This shit is kind of weird, man. And the thing that I just don't get with these things, right? If the Snyderverse doesn't get restored, why the fuck do they keep coming back for these things? Like Henry Cavill doesn't need this paycheck. So why does he show up? Why does Ben go film these parts for the Flash? Like it to me, I would to be like, no, I'm not getting anything after this, and it doesn't benefit me. I don't need the extra money. So what do I get by popping up and showing in these films? And it's not going to lead me to continue on being in future films. All I'm doing is just helping you out, and you guys are making shitty movies on top of that. So I don't know why they keep showing up. That's why I don't like it.
So here's from what I understand now. You asked me this question a month ago, and I would have told you I was hopeful as hell, man. I was like, oh, right, we got Henry Cavill, we got Ben Affleck coming back or whatever. The Snyderverse is going to be restored. As soon as Zack is done with Netflix, he's going to come back and he's going to finish Justice League 2 and 3. Where we stand today, more or less, it sounds like Zaslav went, okay, we need Batman to have his solo. We need Superman to have his solo. We're going to continue. We're going to have the Snyderverse, but without Zack. And to me, that's not the Snyderverse. I know to some people it is. To me, it's not. So it sounds like, and I don't have any insider information, this is just based on what everyone else can see, is that Ben is getting his solo movie, the Deathstroke one, or the one that he gets to direct, and Henry Cavill is going to get the third Superman movie. So we had Man of Steel, BVS, and then now whatever they call it, Man of Tomorrow, Man of Steel 3, whatever it is. So it sounds like they got their solos, so they're happy. Ben's happy he can direct his, and they're not so attached to the fact of, well, what about Zack? I need to do Justice League 2 and 3. They're just happy that they're getting their solos. That's what it sounds like to me right now.
I mean, if that's the case and they're getting something out of it, like they're continuing out, then cool. But it's like, if that's not what happens, then to me, it makes absolutely no sense. And then they got this whole thing, like if they give Ben his own movie, seems like they're moving forward with the Pattinson 2. That sounds like even more of a mess than what we were getting, except for the mess isn't, oh, we're doing all these Blue Beetles, Batgirls, and that kind of stuff, to, oh, we got Black Adam, and then 2 different Batmans, and then we're doing Superman, but it's not going to follow the story of the previous Supermans, but it's the same Superman. And then whatever the fuck they're doing with Man and the Flash, if it's a Flash, if that shit's still going to be the stupid multiverse thing. Are they even putting that shit out with what's going on with fucking Ezra? Like, it seems like it's just another mess on top of mess over there at DC Films.
Yeah, absolutely. Right now it is. I agree. And especially since they had Henry show up in the red and blue suit as opposed to the black and silver, which I still say is a good thing, because don't connect Zack's Superman with fucking Black Adam. Let that be the Justice universe. But again, they're continuing the Justice universe and they're ignoring Darkseid. We're going to get a fight between Black Adam and Superman, which according to The Rock, he's giving the fans what they want. And the fans don't want that. They want Superman fighting Darkseid. They want the Justice League fighting fucking Darkseid and the female Furies.
You saying the fans want The Rock fighting Superman. Like literally Dwayne The Rock Johnson fighting Superman.
There's no way he's Black Adam, dude. He's the fucking The Rock in a black leotard.
Yeah.
We'll see where Zack stands on this later on, if there's a future with that. Next year, I think at this point, I don't think they're going to announce a restoration this month, unfortunately. And some people are seeing it as a positive sign that Zack is liking posts on Vero that are promoting Black Adam. They're saying, oh, that's a good sign, because that means he's playing nice with Warner Brothers and Discovery. Why else would he care about what they're doing over there unless he has future projects? You know, if people want to be that optimistic, great, but I'm not on that camp until we get an announcement that he is absolutely back.
And I feel like he's liking posts because he's not trying to get on DC side. He's trying to get on the Rock side. Seems like Rock has all the power. So, hey, man, look, I'm loving that Black Adam. It's looking pretty nice. Maybe Rock might be like, yo, I need Zack Snyder to direct this shit. Like, fuck all what y'all got going on. I need Zack Snyder to direct this. And they're going to do it because The Rock has the power. If the movie doesn't flop, if it actually brings in the money, like, they would listen to whatever the fuck Rock says. Hey, you need Zack Snyder? Get Zack Snyder. Just maybe lighten the movie up just a tad, you know?
Yeah, and that shit is gonna flop, man. Wakanda Forever is like 2 or 3 weeks after Black Adam, and no one's gonna give a shit about Black Adam. Tickets already went up on sale for Wakanda Forever, and people are more interested in that shit as well. They should be, and it's gonna be. They're gonna blame the Snyder fans when it flops, even though Snyder fans are apparently only 40 people, a bunch of bots, vocal minority, right?
Odd, right?
Yeah,
Small vocal minority, but somehow y'all can bury a movie.
right.
Crazy.
Of course. Or it does okay because enough Snyder fans, Henry Cavill showing up is enough for them. That they compromise like crazy, and it's insane.
Can we do a prediction?
Yeah, prediction? I think it's gonna flop. What do you think?
Well, but I'm saying a number.
Oh, a number.
I think it's gonna do Batman. Whatever Batman did at the box office. I think that's what he's got right now.
What did the Battinson do? Was it 600? I should just look this up right now because I want to get some solid numbers. This is almost like that Trivia Time with Mr. Riggs episode. So are we looking? Do you want to predict domestic only, or do you want to go worldwide or international?
Domestic only, probably. I guess first weekend.
Okay. Well, domestic overall was 369 million, but let's see, release date. So opening was 134 million domestic.
Yeah. I think they get that. I don't think it's going to be too much more than that.
134 million. I'm going to go a little lower than that then. I'm going to go with, I almost think 90 million might be too low, especially with some of these idiots.
Yeah, I just don't see it getting like 200, 300. It's definitely not going to get 500 first weekend for sure. Like that, I could see Black Panther maybe doing that first weekend. And I can't imagine them at least, I would say maybe 150 max first weekend.
All right. So I looked at The Rock's last flop, which was DC League of Super Pets. That came out just a few months ago. That one did 23 million opening. So I'm actually going to stick to 90 million. I'm going to stick to 90 million on this one. Yeah. And you're going with 134, max 150, right?
Yeah.
Cool. That's the prediction. We will. I can't wait for this one. Either way, I'm going to paint it as a flop, right?
I mean, even 134 to me is a flop with probably the amount of money they're spending on CGI promotion, paying the fucking Rock. That's still
fucking
a
marketing
flop in the grand scheme.
Yeah, they spent a lot on that marketing for Bland Adam, and I don't think it's going to make its money back, but we will find out in just a few weeks, and we will cover it right here on the show. But that does round out our news for this week. Let's head on over into the Brocat block, which is what Macio and I have been doing since you last heard us. So first, I want to cover the latest comment from Adrian C. on Patreon, who heard last week's episode and said, quote, "Congratulations on baby number 2, you guys." He has a prediction too. He says, "I predict another boy," end quote. So thank you, Adrian. I appreciate it. Most people in my circle, in our family, are saying they feel it's a girl, that it's going to be a girl. I would love another little boy. I think it would be great I have a little brother, and I understand the relationship between brothers, and I think it'd be awesome. A great thing for Leo to experience. I don't know what to think anymore as far as boy or girl, but whatever it ends up being, it's going to be special. But yeah, Adrian feels it's going to be a little boy, and I hope he's right, but I won't be disappointed at all if it's a girl.
I don't know if it's going to be a boy or girl, but I feel like I think my prediction is going to be they're going to look more like Kelly. Like I think your genes aren't going to prevail this time. You might get a little redhead Mexican coming out.
A little Louis C.K. then.
Yeah.
Let's hope they're just as funny as Louis C.K. Yeah, because this pregnancy has been different. As she mentioned last week, she's been a lot more sick this time around. So you could be right. You could be right. So before I go into Lord Koj and the appearance on there, we'll promote that and go into some Would You Rathers. But Macio, what have you been playing? I'm sure it's more Fortnite, but what have you been up to since you were last on?
Just grinding out on new seasons. We're having a blast. That's pretty much all I've been playing. New Fortnite. I played a little bit of this new game, or it's new to me, but it's pretty old. Cook Serve Delicious 2, which is fucking hectic. It's basically you're playing like this. It's almost like a WarioWare mini game type game, but it's all about cooking, and you're running this restaurant. You're trying to get the orders out as fast as you can. So I played a little bit of that with my wife, but it's mostly been Fortnite. Football season came back since the last time I was on. So I've just been watching my team, the Jets, 4-2 now. Shout out Zach Wilson, Brees Hall, Sauce. A lot of receivers getting lost in the sauce. So that's pretty much been what I've been doing the past, I don't know, month and a half.
Work been going well?
Yeah,
Smooth sailing?
It's been moving. It's been moving. I got some busy days ahead of me now that some coworkers been dipping out, a lot of retirements, a lot of conventions and conferences. So been picking up the slack for like assistant managers, all that kind of stuff. But it's been pretty smooth. We might be getting a new person coming in pretty soon. So,
well, I hope so.
That might be exciting. But we'll see.
Yeah, we'll tell that story later on based on what happens, but it's a funny one. I'm going to tell that one to Scott when we meet up, one of our co-hosts on here, in case this is your first episode. But he's going to hear the full story of that one when we meet up for dinner later on this week. Well, that's good to hear, man. No crazy waters, smooth sailing. I like to hear that, and that you're having fun with Fortnite. Although I still think Minecraft is. I've learned that Minecraft and Fortnite players don't like each other. That's one thing I learned since you were last on. It's like a competition between the two. I don't know why, but it is.
And it doesn't really make sense either because when it comes to the main game of like Fortnite, it's pretty much nothing like Minecraft. Mm-hmm. And when it comes to the main game of Minecraft, that's like pretty much nothing like Fortnite. They both have those creative modes where you can pretty much make anything, do anything. But other than that, like it's like nothing compared. The only reason I can think of that is like kids in school and shit. It's like, oh man, you play you're still playing Fortnite. And it's like, oh, you're still playing Minecraft. Like Minecraft been around damn near 15 years at this point. Like it's old as shit. Like Fortnite's only just now had its 5th year anniversary. So, but any of these games that last forever, like Fortnite, Minecraft, GTA 5, like that's fucking dope. Like people still play those games. Like just like how, you could still pop on Twitch and there's a Melee tournament at any time going on. Like that's dope to me that we keep those games and, new audiences can come in, new younger kids can come in and play those things. Like that's fire.
Yeah, I think I do attribute that to as well. Like you were saying, kids are playing one or the other. It seems like Fortnite or Minecraft. And it's kind of like the Sega and Nintendo console wars back when we were young. It's just a matter of, you're playing one or the other. And so immediately it's a competition, I guess, or something. It's a preference thing. And that's something we've seen for years upon years. And these two are just the two big things among kids right now is those two. So I do have a preference, obviously, with Minecraft, but it also did not make sense until we broke it down just now.
Yeah. And on top of that, I feel like the another reason why it's pretty much that kind of competition is kids that play Fortnite. They get those V-Bucks, the Fortnite money. And they have so much invested in Fortnite with the skins and the emotes and all that stuff that they don't want to move over to a different game like Minecraft because they're going to start from zero. And then they're going to have to go to their parents and be like, yo, I need like $100 worth of like Minecraft money so I can actually play with my friends because they're like, they got all the stuff that I don't have because I never played it. So I feel like that's the same thing back in the day. Like you might have had that Nintendo, but your friend had the Sega and you're like trying to convince your parents, like, I need to get a Sega too. And they're like, fuck no. I spent $300 on this. You got like 20 games. Like, can I just buy you another game? Or
play the games you got.
Just play when you go over to your friend's house, just play that. You like play the games you got when you go over there, play their games. And it's like, it's not the same, but hey, parents don't understand.
That's true. Do you think we'll ever get Minecraft skins in Fortnite or Fortnite DLC in Minecraft? Are we ever going to see that day?
It's only a matter of time.
You think so?
They about like 2 or 3 weeks ago, Destiny 2 skins were in Fortnite. And now I was like, what? That makes absolutely no sense. And then they put a whole like game mode from Destiny 2 into Fortnite. So I was like, I don't see how this makes sense because Destiny 2 is a free to play game that tries to suck all your time and money. And Fortnite is the same. Why would Fortnite be like promoting a whole different game? But I mean, shit, I'm pretty sure Bobby bought some fucking Destiny 2 skins for Fortnite, which is hilarious. So I guess it worked. I mean, there was the crossover there. I feel like maybe people only play like Destiny, maybe for the player versus AI co-op portion, but they don't play the player on player stuff. So then they switch over to Fortnite when they want to, go against actual real life people, and then the other way around. So maybe that was the crossover they were looking for. It didn't make sense to me. I like putting Sonic in Fortnite makes more sense than having another game, live service game that tries to take you away from everything, and promoting that in your game seems kind of odd. But I mean, shit, they got smarter people than me working there.
One of the things that I've had going on this week is we had a new Yu-Gi-Oh! I don't know if it's a set or a side set, but a new Yu-Gi-Oh! Thing released. So we had Yu-Gi-Oh! Players coming in, and I learned that a couple things, like Magic players apparently also don't like Yu-Gi-Oh! Players. I've been learning a little bit about the fan bases as far as TCG, and that's been really interesting for me. But they came out for the new set. I think it's called Darkwing, and that's been doing pretty well. But outside of that, there's the new Pokemon set coming out soon, which I'll be looking at the set list, seeing what's coming out, and maybe doing a couple of pre-orders here and there. I've also been going through my collection. So I don't think I shared it on here, but my office a year or a year and a half from now will be the baby's new room. So my comic room, my collection room, my office is not going to be where I'm recording right now. And we've discussed other options like sectioning off a part of the living room to house some of that stuff, or to be able to record there. I've looked into an option of a shed outside of the house to where I can have my own private space, and I've seen that in a lot of people's collections. And when they get when they need the room, they'll get a shed and they soundproof it and weatherproof it and all that stuff. So that might be an option. But one of the things is I was looking at is I don't want to. I'm not going to have all the room for this stuff, but I also want to move less stuff when that day does come. I do need to get a new car in 2 years when the new Honda comes out. Like, I tried looking into some cars this weekend and they've got nothing. And they're like, look,
oh yeah, no,
like next year,
especially in our area with
yes,
the amount of people that lost cars, you're not finding shit for a long time, and the prices are going to be astronomical.
Absolutely, they are. There was a used one for $31,000, and I'm like, holy shit, man, this is not the time. And I'm like, all right, I'm going to wait a couple years. I'm going to hope that my car makes it, because it has a little bit of trouble turning over when I turn it on. But that seems to be the big problem with it, aside from the AC. And I'm like, if I can make this last a couple more years, then I can trade it in and get something else. So I've been going through my collection. I contacted the old boss man, and I'm selling off a lot of my comic collection and my collectibles. So he and I are coming up with some deals, and I'm going to be going through that. So I've gone through some long boxes, and I've gone through some comics that I'm like, okay, I'm ready to let that go. I'm ready to let this go. And at first I'm like, it's going to be about half the collection, maybe 9 long boxes. But now I'm like, a lot of this stuff I'm ready to let go of, especially since I'm going to be putting it towards a car, and maybe for now, putting into my savings and earn some interest on it if there ends up being a deal out of this. So that's kind of been my project at the moment, is getting all that stuff ready. Even though it's still a year and a half away, I'm trying to move this stuff before the holidays, more to benefit him and the comic shop, because he's like, if I can get this before the holidays, I can have a higher chance of moving it.
Yeah, and that's cool, man. How does that feel? Because I'm not, as a person that doesn't collect shit, to me it's just stuff, but to you, I'm sure it's a lot deeper.
Some of it I thought was going to be a little bit more bittersweet, I guess, but I think, I don't know, maybe it's because stuff like my Adventure Time collection, that one I've passed through. Like, I'm not selling that. Every now and again, I would trade in a long box or so of stuff that I'm like, okay, this series didn't work out. I didn't really like it. I picked up 6 issues of it. I'm ready to let it go. But now I'm going through and I'm like, I'm ready to get rid of Archie. I'm ready to get rid of Adventure Time. I'm ready to get rid of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Like, I don't know. It's just, I think it's a matter of priorities. That's what it comes down to. And I'm still collecting. I'm still reading comics and I'm still collecting comics, but it's not to the level that it was a year ago. And my list is lower than it's been in years, but I'm not getting out of collecting comics. But I think it just means that my priorities are different. You know, I'm 34 years old now. I'm trying to make a career change to something that I'll stick at, or that will be my thing for many years. So I'm now looking at the future, man. I'm looking at, okay, you know, this is, you know, not that I'm close to retiring or anything, but, you know, what am I going to do with these books? I can make some use for them. I could hand them down to Leo, And I am keeping some things like the Greg Capullo, Scott Snyder Batman. I'm keeping a lot of my CGC books, and that's probably going to be stuff that I'll never sell and that I'll hand down to Leo or my other child, whatever they may end up being. Maybe they want to collect it or maybe they want to sell it off. But, it's kind of that thing of that old phrase, you never own anything, because one day you're going to die and it's going to go to someone else. So it's not like if I can put some use to it now and it'll help me get a car later on, then that's the reality of it, right? I put in so much money and time into these comics, and now I can sort of let them go and make a little bit of money to help my life today.
I feel you. Yeah. Well, it's definitely a matter of priorities, but like to me, like it's all just like things.
Sure.
And I try to keep stuff that I have at a minimum. Like if I'm not using it, I'm trying to get rid of that shit. I'm selling it. I'm giving it to somebody that might use it. When I hear people and they're like, oh man, I had like this I had a trading card collection. I had a baseball card collection, and they sound like, man, like, and that's stuff that doesn't even take up that much space. And they're like, oh man, like if they needed money, they needed to get a down payment on a house, and they're like, oh, I made like $5,000 off of my baseball cards, but they sound like so defeated when it comes to it. So I was like, damn, I feel sad, but then I'm like, it's just cards though. In my mind, I'm like, I feel sad for them. They seem so beat up about it, and I'm just like, but it's just like cards, man. Like, if you build that house is going to bring so much more value to you versus some trading cards that are kind of just boxed away. You don't really even pay attention to them.
Yeah, and it's all sentimentality, I think. But some of those people that you talk to where they sold off their cards, it sounds like they had to. It'd be like me needing to sell my Red Sun Superman statue or my first appearance of Ra's al Ghul, things like that, where I'd be like, fuck, I never want to sell this stuff.
Yeah.
So I totally get that from that aspect. But to you, it'd be like, it's just a porcelain statue. It's just a comic. It's paper. So I get it. But yeah, that's where I'm moving on to as far as that and cutting down the collection quite a bit. Funko Pops. And it's also stuff that I'm like, I got a big discount on it, or I had a bunch of store credit from when we did really well last month. And it's stuff that it's like I normally wouldn't have bought otherwise if I didn't have the discount, if I didn't have the store credit. So that's what I'm finding out too. But the last thing I want to plug before we go into the final portion of the Brocat block is please head on over to Lord Kojay's channel. He's been on the podcast before. He's talked a lot of Snyderverse stuff. He is, in my opinion, a pillar of the Snyderverse community. And he does more or less lie in line with what we talk about on here as far as, no, I'm not seeing Black Adam. That's not a Snyderverse movie. All that stuff. He's on that side of it. The RT Snyder Cut account, that same mentality. Lord Kojay, he's been a longtime listener. He was a Patreon supporter. He had me on his channel. And if you go on YouTube, type in Lord Kojay, and you will find his channel. He's wearing the red luchador mask, and it'll be one of his latest videos. He had me on there, and I'm like, all right, we're going to talk, I don't know, maybe some Snyderverse stuff, but he's like, no, man, we're going to talk some Sonic the Hedgehog. We're going to talk about what got you into podcasting. It became an interview about me and the show. And I'm like, oh shit, like I wasn't expecting that, but it was cool. It was a little bit different. And we got to talk about our love for Sonic, Sega Genesis, and we got to churn it on him too and see the stuff he liked, like He-Man and G.I. Joe. So please check out that video. It's again on Lord Kojay's channel. I've shared it on social media as well. And if you need a link, DM me, send me a tweet, and I will send you a link to this video. But Macio, I want to get into some Would You Rather gaming edition. So I last played this with Nick, and we went into superhero stuff, but this time we're going to do gaming. So this first question, would you rather plan on only playing single-player games or only multiplayer games, and why?
Man, this is hard. I would probably end up going single player, man, to be honest with you, because like I wouldn't want to be hamstrung only to multiplayer games when multiplayer games die out. Like it would have to be something where it's like so many multiplayer games that you could play like split screen or couch co-op or offline, where you wouldn't have to have that online component. Like single player games are forever. You can play them by yourself forever. There's no, it doesn't get shut down after a time. And there's so many good single player games. There's so many good single player games that I can replay over and over again. And that's one of those things where with games, if I love the game, I could replay it over and over versus like TV shows, movies. Like I don't want to watch a TV series. Like I love Parks and Rec or I love Community, but I never watched it again. I've watched it one full time all the way through, but I never went back to watch it again because as much as I love those shows, TV, movies, that's not my medium. Things that I like to replay a lot would be music and video games. So I've played Halo 1 probably 30, 40 times. I've played Halo 2 probably the same amount. Sonic 3. So I could play single player games like forever without question if I love the game. So that would probably be my pick. As much as I would lose out on being able to play with my friends, I would still be so happy playing something single player by myself.
Yeah, that's my answer as well, single players, because when I think of single player, I think of Dead Space, Resident Evil 4, Star Fox 64. And those are the games that I will forever remember that I know I've replayed a number of times. The best multiplayer games I've played, if you want to count it, Super Smash Brothers Melee, sure. If I can't ever play Smash Brothers again, is that a huge loss compared to losing all of those games like Dead Space? I don't think so. Or Call of Duty, I used to play that a lot multiplayer. And again, that's not a game that I can go back or see myself playing again in 20 years. Star Fox 64, you bet your ass I will go back and play that game no matter how old I get. And I know that some games don't age as well, but some of these classics do. And those are the ones that I would rather play when we're comparing games, especially since you and I went through the era of single player games, you know?
And then when you think about how you said earlier about passing down those comic books, like, oh, I might be able to pass that down to my son or my daughter or whoever you have next. Like you can do that with single player games. You can't pass that feeling of, oh man, when I played Call of Duty 4 with my homies after we got off work, like you can't pass that down. Like they either feel it or they don't. And they're only going to get it from whatever game they play when they grow up. So you can't pass that down, but you can say like play Dead Space. That atmosphere is never going to change. The graphics might not look hot, but they are still going to get scared shitless when those monsters come out. They're still going to get that tightness feeling on the gameplay of Resident Evil 4. Like you always be able to get that feeling on those single player games that you never be able to replicate with multiplayer.
Here's the next. Would you rather play only long/endless games, so kind of like open world games, or play games that are less than 20 hours long?
I'm going with the second one, man. As much as I've had fun playing those type of open world games like Grand Theft Auto, San Andreas, one of my favorite games, another single player game, or Morrowind, Elder Scrolls Morrowind, Oblivion. I'm trying to think of some other open world games that I love.
Or how about even RPGs? Because those are usually over 20 hours long, so you would lose RPGs too.
Ooh, I think I would still go with those 20 hours, but you could definitely beat Mass Effect 1, 2, and 3 in 20 hours without even really trying to speed run them.
Does it count as beating them if you can't do all the side shit? Like that's the game right there.
Yeah, but I would say at least in Mass Effect 1, a lot of the side shit, it doesn't really have that much to it until you get to the second game. And then you're like, oh, damn. Like if you didn't play the side quest to this, you don't know the story. So it's like, and some of those games, it's like, yeah, but a lot of games, I feel like I wouldn't be missing too much if it was like the requirement is after 20 hours, you can't play it anymore. I feel like if I only had 20 hours to play Mass Effect, I feel like I did very well. But 20-hour long games, like if you're saying, oh, I can only play endless games, that only leads me to open world games and like super long RPGs like Mass Effect or like Star Ocean, Final Fantasy. And then I'm losing out on shit like Sonic, like Halo, Two Human, Gunstar Heroes,
Mario, probably
Astro Boy, Mario, any Mario title. So it's like when you're leaving out those like heavy hitters like that, and then you could still get some of those RPGs that actually are 20 hours or shorter. Like, for example, you said 20 hours, less than 20 hours long. If you go with that, the super long, endless open world type games, then you don't get Resident Evil 4. You don't get Dead Space. Like Dead Space is what, like an 8-hour game? So
yeah.
Give me the shorter than 20 hours. I'm taking those for sure.
If you had asked me this back when I was still playing, maybe I would have gone with the longer games, especially. I mean, it'd be tough for me to lose Mass Effect. And I know
Yeah.
I would consider that a long game on my side. So I could not do enough Mass Effect in 20 hours, that's for sure. So that would have been, but today I can't even do Red Dead Redemption 2. Like I
Oh
forget
yeah,
what
and
I did.
that's fucking long as shit, man.
Yeah, like those long games I can't do today. So me today at 34, give me the shorter games because I'll play TMNT multiplayer with Leo, which we can run through the whole
Mhm.
story in a couple of hours. I'll do that. Or Lego. Oh shit, I might lose the Lego games that I
Yeah,
play with him because those take longer than 20 hours.
yeah, and that's the thing. I'm like, there's so many games that's like under 20, and then in your case, like we're older, right? So when you have a child, you're about to have another one. I might have one in the future. You never know, and you have to stop the game. Like sometimes you might
Mhm.
not get back to that game in like a 3-4 days. Maybe you only get to play on the weekend, and like you completely forgetting, like, yo, what the fuck was I doing? What was
Mhm.
the story about? And then these shorter games, it's like you could finish it up like 2-3 hours here, 2-3 hours there. It's not too much after you forget. And the game doesn't just go on forever. And you feel like, man, I've been playing this game for like 5 months and I'm still not done. And you're already tired of it, you know? So
Yeah.
that's my thought process there.
Last, would you rather here? Would you rather play only games that released in the last 10 years or play only games that released over 10 years ago?
And since it's just the last 10 versus over 10, I'm going to have to go only over 10
Yeah.
because that gives me all of the games I grew up with and even some of the games that I was already a grown ass man, but I was like playing a shit ton of games of. So like I would definitely go with that versus only playing games in the last 10 because that gives me 2012 to 2022. I'm trying to think of games that I've been playing around that time. That would be like Red Dead Redemption 2, PUBG, Fortnite.
The
Um,
last couple Halos.
yeah, the last couple of Halos, which I'm not missing much there. If we're being honest, because there's literally only been two, Halo 5 and Halo Infinite. So I'm not really missing that much. But then I get to play literally every other Halo. So Reach
Mhm.
3, 2, 1. Man, like all the Sonics, Gunstar Heroes, Astro Boy, fucking Mario Luigi Superstar Saga. Like there's so much fucking games, dude. Like so many fucking games. And then the last 10 years, the last 10 years, I've probably been playing like the same like 4 or 5 games, honestly, like PUBG, Fortnite, Halo, here and there. Even the Mass Effects, like all of them shits came out before 2012. So like I'm trying to think of like the games I've been playing and like the last 10 years, I've probably been playing like max, like I probably played a lot of games and beaten a lot of games, but I haven't went back to play them. Like I would be losing out on Hades or like Hollow Knight, and those are amazing games.
Oh, Transistor.
Uh,
That's one of my favorites. Shit.
Transistor, yeah, yeah. Hyperlight Drifter, and the thing I think I would be missing the most is all those amazing smaller indie games that
Mhm.
came out in the past 10 years versus the AAA games. Honestly, what about you?
Yeah, I mean, I would miss things like Transistor or Mass Effect 3, but I would go for games over 10 years because Arkham City's 2011. So boom, I got that one. I got Star
Yeah,
Fox 64, the Resident Evils. Obviously, I would miss on remasters. Those wouldn't count in over 10 years ago. So remastered versions of some of these titles I wouldn't be able to play. But, there's also a library of games that I never played from over 10 years ago. So I would
yeah,
be able to go back and play a lot of the DS games, a lot of the GBA games that I never got my hands on because
yeah,
we didn't buy as many, which didn't have as much expendable income even years after the NES era. So in that
yeah.
era, there's a huge library of titles that I can play, and yeah, that's my answer too. I don't think there's anything like, sure, I'm losing out on some solid titles from the last 10 years, but there's some incredible ones that are much older than that too.
Yeah, and it's like even if you think about like those games that you play hardcore, and it's like, oh, man, I played so much Black Ops 2, and that's like, but that came out before 2012. So
Yeah, I can play Black Ops 2.
Yeah. So it's so many titles. Like as you said, even like GBA. Like I played a ton of GBA games, and I still have a like Golden Sun 2 or something like that. Or I have a 3DS, and I only have four games for it. There's plenty of games I've never played on 3DS, and I never owned a DS.
Oh,
So I'm like missing out on tons of titles there. So like it's a no brainer for me. Like that's easy. Now, if you said only like stuff between 2001 to 2011 versus 2012 to 2022, that would be definitely a little bit harder.
yeah. At that point, we'd have to look at a full list and see.
Yeah,
That's
and that list is some heavy hitters. And still, you still got like the Zeldas on GameCube, the Zeldas on Wii, all the Halos, all the Call of Duties, like Call of Duty 4 through Black Ops 2, fucking all the Mass Effects, the early Assassin's Creeds. Yeah, that was the golden era for the sports games. And ever since then, they've just been kind of watered down. So,
except for MLB The Show, that's been solid. Yeah. Awesome, Macio. Thank you so much for answering the Would You Rathers and for being on the show and helping host this week's episode. Please let them know on the other side where they can find you if they want to continue the conversation.
At Mac the Murderer on Twitter and at Mac the Murderer on Discord, on the Reasons on Bro Discord, man. We have some fun out there, so come through.
There will be links to everywhere you can find Macio, including the Discord, on the description of today's episode. Just swipe on over and you will find all the links. You can also find the link at thereasonsimbroke.com. Just scroll all the way to the bottom. And this week, if you have someone that is into gaming or is into the Snyderverse movement, let them know about the podcast. Telling a friend, word of mouth, is the most effective method in getting more people on board, getting more members into the Brocat core. So I would really appreciate it. Just take a few minutes. If you know that person that might enjoy any of the things that we talked about this week, let them know about the Reasons I'm Broke podcast. So thank you so much for joining us again for sector number 531. I've been Daniel, joined by Macio, and Brocat Core, all will be well. Is there a voice actor for you, Macio, that if they were, Master Chief, or maybe another voice actor that if they were like, hey, I didn't get my pay, please boycott the next game, that you would actually be on board for?
Let's see.
Master Chief's voice, is that enough to do it?
That would probably, right now I'm already boycotting like Halo anyway. So if they did that, that would be nuts. But also like the voice of Master Chief is pretty fucking old. So like, yeah,
wow,
I wouldn't be surprised if they did it. I mean, there were already people that were like, I'm not watching the show because they shouldn't show Master Chief's face at all. And they should be using Master Chief's voice. And there were people that were almost saying like I think they ended up using the Cortana voice from the games, I'm pretty sure, as the voice of Cortana in the show.
Oh, nice.
But they almost didn't. And people were like kind of in an uproar on that. And I believe at one point in time, they were actually trying to get Cortana out of the game on Halo 4. I believe they were going to switch voice actors because 343 is dumb and they wanted to do their own thing and they didn't want to be under Bungie's shadow. And they were going to keep Master Chief, but then get Cortana a new voice. And then I believe the voice of Master Chief was like, no, like, if she's not in it, I'm not in it. And the crazy thing about it is that they actually never met and been side by side at any point in time during Halo 1, 2, 3, up until Halo 4. And that's when they actually were in the same room together. And he still was like, I'm going to fight for her before he even met her in real life, which is crazy. So I don't know, that would probably be my pick. One of the first early ones with this whole voice acting thing that I remember was Splinter Cell when they switched from, I think it's Michael Ironstyle, I want to say his name is, and they were going to switch him out, and I believe they ended up doing it, and that was like because they went with a younger Sam Fisher. I believe that's the character there, and that was like people were losing their shit. But then I mean the game still sold well. So in all of these cases, Like no one boycotts the fucking game. And that's why that's why I brought it up. Like the people are still buying the fucking game. It doesn't matter. Like no one's boycotting the game. It sucks for the voice actor. They lose the work. They pretty much get erased, especially if there's going to be a Bayonetta 4 or 5, 6, like, or any type of spin-offs where Bayonetta, she's not playing the voice. So she's getting erased. Her whole history is getting erased. Like, it kind of like Arlene Sorkin, like pretty much there's only going to be you and like the other old heads. That's like, but Batman, the animated series, like everybody else is Tara Strong is Harley Quinn. So
that's true.
They pretty much get erased. And that's the thing that sucks about it. Like even 20 years down the line, when Tara Strong isn't playing Harley Quinn, they're going to say, oh, the OG Harley Quinn is Tara Strong. And that's gotta suck.
Yeah.
When you were the first person, you created the voice, the thought in your mind, like that is the sound that everyone's basing it off of. And you don't even get the recognition at all.